Good afternoon, Bradley here. Time for another vinyl tag of 2023. This is my 6th vinyl tag. I'm getting older. So let's get on with it. Question number 1, and these are from Rob Walker. Has a great channel from Manchester, England. Question number 1, favorite release of 2022. Usually when I buy an album, it is my favorite, at least for a while. This kind of remained one of my favorites throughout the whole year. One of my favorite groups, Delvon Lamarr Organ Trio. Cold as Weiss. Soul Jazz Funk Organ Trio. Fantastic music. They are fantastic live. I think I have all of their albums, so good stuff. Number 2, show an LP from the last act that you have seen live. Actually, it's been a few years since I've seen a live act, except for a few local groups. So that's where this guy comes in. His name is Jordan Ross, and this particular album was with 3 other musicians, and it's under the Jordan Ross import name, Black Swamp Territory. 4-piece group, has a violin in there. The violinist is from Transylvania, Romania. So it's got a really Southern Americana vibe to this particular release by Jordan. It's like you can feel the humidity dripping on this record. So I think it's the first time I ever described a record as humid, but very good. He's released, I don't know, 6 or 7 CDs throughout his career, and he's played down at Hilton Head in South Carolina for 14 years or so. He recently moved back to Ohio. So if you've ever been to Hilton Head, you probably maybe heard him if you go out to any of the entertainment venues. Excellent musician. I kind of helped him get started in music, I guess. But it became obvious after a while he didn't really need my help. Question number 3. Show a band you thought the first album was the best. Well, actually it says that the first album was the best. I'm not saying it's the best, it's my favorite. By one of my favorite rock groups, The Clash. This was their first album, the American version, entitled The Clash. Classic punk on here, along with a few reggae songs. I'm usually pretty bad at remembering lyrics, but I think I remember every lyric to every song on this album. So I'm not saying it's the best, but it's my favorite Clash album. Question number 4 is an easy one. Show a hat trick. In other words, an album, a cassette, and a CD of the same album. I do not have any anymore. That I have all 3 versions. At one time, I think Who's Next by The Who I had, but whatever. Question number 5. Show an album that starts and ends with the same letter. I'm a Beatles fan, so how about Revolver? R. What more can I say? Question number 6. Name an artist that was born in the same year as you. I had to go on the internet to find this out. I was born in 1955, so I was trying to think who would have been born. Anyhow, it turns out that I showed that Clash album earlier. Mick Jones was born in 1955, and also the bass player. How do you pronounce his name? I never knew. Paul Simonon. Anyhow, both of those were born in 1955. Question number 7. Show the album you listen to most in 2022. Like I said, I get whenever I get an album, I usually play the hell out of it. Now this one I got free. A doctor had a bunch of whatever old records in his collection he wanted to get rid of. So reluctantly, I said I would take them, and I did clean this album up, and I'm glad I did. This is the music of Leonard Bernstein. It's with Eric Rodgers conducting the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. So it's got a bunch of Leonard Bernstein compositions on here. I got this for free. I swear it's the best sounding album in my collection. It'd be very good, plus, just recorded, ungodly good. So, boy, this is good. So it's kind of like modern, whatever, classical music, but really, really cool. Sounds fantastic. Okay, question number 8. The artist you listen to most in 2022. This would probably be correct. I'm a real big fan of the jazz bassist Christian McBride. I have most of his albums and a lot of the albums that he played on. This particular one is Christian McBride Big Band for Jimmy, Wes, and Oliver, meaning Jimmy Smith, Wes Montgomery, and Oliver Nelson. This is a fantastic 2-record recording. Recorded excellently. I love it. Number 9, show an Australian artist. I'm pretty sure he's Australian. I bought this, oh God, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. Tame Impala. Inner Speaker is the name of the album. I don't play it a lot, but it is really good. And what's his name? Is it Peter Parker? No, Kevin Parker. He's the mastermind behind Tame Impala, and he's from Australia. Number 10, show a surprising purchase of 2022. When was it? Last year, I got the second album by this group, which it's the Joshua Redman Quartet, and that was recorded just in whatever, 2021 or 2. This was their first album, and it was recorded. When was it recorded? I'm thinking the 1990s or something. Joshua Redman Quartet, Mood Swing. So this has Joshua Redman, who was Dewey's son. This music sounds nothing like what Dewey did. Christian McBride, who is it? Brian Blade. Let's see. Yeah, Brian Blade on drums, Christian McBride on bass, Brad Meldow on piano, and Joshua Redman on saxophone. This was recorded in 1994. So this was the first album by this quartet. Wow, this is really, really good stuff. Nothing really out there, but it's just so damn sweet. And all these musicians who are there are very famous now. This was probably their first album. So it's really cool. Number 11, show an artist or band you are a completist. I'm not really a completist. Well, my favorite band of all time is the Beatles. Growing up, I had most of the American albums and most of the Apple albums. I got rid of them, so I've been I'm in no rush, slowly buying basically the British versions of the Beatles albums. I have probably 3 or 4 to go, I suppose. Well, yeah, probably 4 maybe. I'm in no rush. Anyhow, this was my original Meet the Beatles. Number 12, show an artist with a great run of 3 LPs. These are my favorite 3 LPs of this artist, jazz saxophonist. And they were all recorded within 9 months in 1964, in that calendar year. They were released kind of a staggered release, maybe every 9 months or so. But they were recorded within 9 months of each other. So the first one was, I think this was the first, was Night Dreamer. Love this album. And I'm not sure which was second. I'm going to show Juju. And the last one is Speak No Evil. Definitely my 3 favorite Wayne Shorter albums. Fantastic songwriting and playing on those albums. Number 13, show an 80s soundtrack. I think I've shown this on a couple vinyl tags. It kind of fit in. I don't have that many soundtrack albums. This was released in 1980, Times Square. Just a bunch of punk and new wave songs that were fairly new at the time. Great artists on here. Suzi Quatro, Pretenders, Roxy Music, Talking Heads, Joe Jackson, XTC, Ramones, Garland Jeffries, The Cure, Patti Smith, Lou Reed, and on and on. You can usually, I've seen this in record stores quite a bit. This excellent soundtrack. Number 14, show an artist that died in 2022. I got this album in 2022, and probably about 4 months later, she died. And I'm talking about Jaimie Branch. American, I'll show the cover, see it's kind of embossed or something. This is called Fly or Die Live. Jaimie Branch, a American jazz trumpet player. I think a four-piece group. Really, really good. It's kind of like the new jazz, but it's obvious. I mean, she could play any type of jazz. And she just died, about halfway through last year. So I was looking forward to more releases from her. Number 15, show your most disappointing purchase of 2022. Now I have a few albums by this artist, and I like them. I really like them. A modern American jazz drummer, Makaya McCraven. This was on Blue Note. I think it was released last year. At least I bought it last year. Yeah, whatever, 2021 I guess was when it was released. It's got Joel Ross on here, Greg Ward, whatever. Like I said, I like Makaya McCraven, but I just could never get into this album. I tried and tried and tried. Just couldn't do it. It's one of those albums that were recorded during the pandemic, and they kind of, kind of passed the files around to different people in different studios. They kind of did their part and all that. So I think it comes down to too many cooks spoil the broth, maybe. I don't know. I just can't get into it. Number 16, show a non-vinyl purchase. Well, I can't really show it here, but it's a, I didn't get any CDs or cassettes, or I don't think any music books, in fact. But I did get a subwoofer, a small subwoofer. It's made by REL. Sounds excellent. So, well worth it. Okay, question number 17. Show a holy grail that you picked up. Now this has recently been reissued along with 4 other albums from this series by this group. I was unaware it was released as a box set in, I think, 2019, and that just went right over my head. I'm speaking of the Don Rendell, Ian Carr Quintet. This one is Dusk Fire. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, I listened maybe on YouTube, and I heard this group, and I thought, wow, I really love this music. So I went on to Amazon, and there were no reissues. And in fact, these were recorded from the mid-60s to the late 60s. And they were never repressed, except for a couple for one time in Japan. So the cost of these albums were like $1,000, $1,400, whatever. Too rich for my blood. So I'm really glad they reissued these. And I just kind of stumbled across this and realizing that they have it reissued. So I would call that a holy grail. Number 18, show an album with a space theme. I've shown this before. This is a really good sounding album. It has not been released for quite a while, so actually it's worth quite a bit. I think it was recorded, I'm thinking 2001. Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. Flight of the Cosmic Hippo. 4-piece group. Bella Fleck, he's a banjo player, great harmonica player. I forget the guy's name. He's got Victor Wooten on bass. And might be another Wooten on drums. I can't remember. This is like really good. It's kind of like bluegrass, jazz, and that harmonic in there, which he plays the single notes. So it's not like you're blowing a bunch of harmonica notes. Really good, really good. Excellent sounding. Number 19. Show a VCLT or a present. This was also from that Doctor's Collection, which I got for free. And this album is in immaculate shape. I've never been a big Michael Jackson fan. I like some of the early Jackson 5 stuff, and I was always, this is one album by him I always was going to get, and I never did for some reason. Off the Wall. So it's got one of my favorite songs of all time, I Want to Rock You All Night Long. But this sounds amazing. Produced by Quincy Jones. Number 20. And I have shown this album probably on every jazz vinyl or vinyl tag, vinyl tag that I've done. I've fitted in somehow. Showing an album from 1973. So I had to, I think I went into my Discogs or something. Well, it turns out this is one of my favorite albums of all time. And I'm talking about Todd Rundgren, A Wizard, A True Star. I bought this version a couple years ago from Rhino. Sounds really good. The original record, which I passed on to my cousin, had a die cut all along, so it had a weird shape. This is when Todd started getting into psychedelics. And you can definitely tell it on this. It's kind of a bizarre album, but it sounds really good. He uses synthesizers, guitar, and his voice sounds super. So anyhow, I made it through. That's it for my vinyl tag for 2023. So I will see you folks the next time. Goodbye.